Welcome, I'm Janet Pray, and this is Tuesdays at 2 for Islander Sewing Systems. Behind the camera is Brenda Rogerson, and she'll field questions later. Oh, she doesn't want to give out her name. The anonymous person behind the camera. Uh, anyway, I was just giving a brief history before if you were watching and you could see my lips moving but couldn't hear me. I was giving a brief history of Margaret Islander and why our system is called Islander Sewing Systems. Obviously, it is because it was her last name, not because we live on an island. So, Margaret was a home sewer from the time she was young. And as a young mother, she moved to California and she went to LA Trade Tech, which is in Southern California. And she learned pattern drafting and grading, then got a job in the industry and quickly observed there was a huge gap between home sewing and factory garment sewing. And that gap included the fact that they did not use pins or basting. But the great excitement of it all was the garments looked as good and most of the time better than home sewing methods. Oftentimes, home sewing methods torture the pattern piece, the part of the garment that you're sewing, because there's just way too much involvement when it could be much simpler. And that's some of the things that you learn through Margaret's interpretation of those factory techniques. So what she did was, when she realized how exciting it was for her, she knew it would be just as exciting for other home sewers. And she wanted to share the information because, again, you can sew and make a garment in half the time and end up with a better looking garment when you use these techniques. Are they difficult? Not at all. Do you need to practice a little? Absolutely. So, if you read the newsletter today, we were talking about one of the techniques that you can find in the book, and this is the book we were talking about. And in here are all the techniques, and I think maybe Brenda can pan here these are some of the samples from that you would make if you followed along in the book. And it's the only way to learn the technique. I would go through this book and do each sample one at a time. And what we did, which I think Margaret was just genius, and that was she created the pattern pieces that you see here. Well, I was lucky enough just to land on this page for this piece right here. But what they are is abbreviated or miniature pieces of the exact thing you would normally sew. So the pocket that you see here is a normal size pocket, and we're just going to sew it onto a square of fabric. The little zipper techniques you see here, where we do the slot and the lap zipper, we created a little straight skirt pattern. And then we put the waistbands on, and there's two types of waistbands in this book. So we put those right onto that little skirt as you go through the book. So you find all these little short abbreviated pattern pieces in the back of the book so that you can trace them out and create your own samples. And trust me, this is something I didn't do until I was a professional, which is make samples. If I was going to put a zipper in and I never put a zipper in this way before, I would get out my book and I'd make one or two samples. When I was comfortable, then I put it into the garment. I don't want to rip out and redo and torture the actual skirt I'm making for this beautiful suit. So I'm going to get some Kona cotton. That's what we recommend when you're making samples, and it's what we use in our hands-on classes. Kona cotton comes in a lot of nice, pleasing colors. Not that that's very important, but it also has just the right amount of body to learn this system. Eventually, you would be doing some of these techniques on things like silk and rayon and wool. But to start out with, if you do it on a nice, firmly woven cotton, you could do it on quilter's cotton, but quilter's cotton's usually got a really dizzy prints, and I want to really see what I'm doing. So for me, the plain works much better, and it's not expensive. Uh, you could even, well, I was going to say you could buy the Joann's version. Do they still have a website? Joann's, because they had their own version of Kona, which was maybe $1.50 a yard cheaper. But anyways, Kona's easy to find online, and like I said, a million colors. So the other things that are very cool that you would learn, you know, the slot zipper, the lap zipper. Now, yeah, that was this week's newsletter, was about the lap zipper, but not in a skirt. But what I want you to see here is we put it in the hip side of the skirt, not the center back. We're calling this a side. So there's actually a curve. So in class or in the book or the video class, you could accomplish this lap zipper on a curve without any pins or basting and have it look this nice. Now you'll notice that we use contrasting thread. And I use contrasting thread for the main reason is so that people who are watching can see what I'm doing. And also, I can look at the sample later and see what I did clearly. We use a few little tools now. A little 6-inch ruler is helpful because oftentimes I'm going to have you chalk the stitching line when you do your first zipper, or chalk the stitching line. Where else would we do that? I'm not thinking of an example right now, but that would be really good there. Other ones you don't because you can use your foot or your seam gauge, but when you're putting a zipper in, you don't have either uh, to really see what you're doing. So chalking that really helps. Also, when we put a zipper in, we show you that you need to put interfacing in the seam allowance. So if you've got a 5/8 seam allowance, which you would have with a zipper, you're going to cut 5/8 to a 1/2 inch piece of very lightweight seam allowance or interfacing and put it in the seam allowance. And only the length of the zipper. I go, you know, just slightly past the zipper just to make sure I get it all. But what the interfacing does is it keeps the fabric stable so that you don't have all that rippling and stretching of the fabric while you're trying to put the zipper in. And it also allows the stitches to sit on top of the fabric because there's a little more thickness to bite into. So, you know, if you have a really one layer and you stitch on it, those stitches kind of get puckered or pulled in. 2 layers, they're a little smoother. But you put a little interfacing in between those 2 layers and you'll get a really nice even stitch. And it'll allow those stitches to sit on top of the fabric and look really nice and clean. We do 2 types of waistbands in that in the book. And I think, what have I got here? Here, I think I have, yes. So this is our sport band. And what's interesting about industrial sewing techniques or garment construction techniques is that they're done the opposite of home sewing. So in this case, we are going to stitch this to the skirt and then we're going to top stitch it down on the skirt. Now normally in home sewing they'd have you stitch it to the right side, turn it over to the wrong side, press under the giant seam allowance, which isn't appropriate either, and then try to stitch it and have it look good on both sides. And inevitably it doesn't. The worst one is when they have you want to stitch from the wrong side and have it look good on the right side. It's just not going to happen. So wherever we can, we do the exact opposite. We sew it to the wrong side. We bring it to the right side. We turn it under as we top stitch it down. Now it's WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. The top stitching I'm looking at is what the public's going to see and what's going to look like on the outside of my garment. If I slightly miss on the inside, no one's the wiser, nor will it cause any deficiency in the garment because it's already caught over there anyway, right? But we also teach you that if, of course, we press this up. Are you with me, Brent?
Mhm.
And if we press this under the exact 1/4 of an inch our seam allowance is, and we lay that fold right on top of that previous stitching, do you think you can see that previous stitching? You cannot?
Hold it up a little bit. Maybe. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So anyways, we know we sewed it down and that stitching is going to show. So if we lay the folded edge directly on top of that stitching and we stitch the appropriate needle width away from the folded edge, it will look the same on the back as it does in the front. And I had a lot of fun when I was learning this to try to get that perfect. And the first couple times it wasn't, but it looked great on the outside. And eventually, pretty much caught it on the inside in the same place every time. So it doesn't take long. 2 or 3 samples will get you the technique every time. So, of course, when we talk about stitching without pins or basting, we have to counteract the feed dog. So it's all about the way you handle the fabric. And you've watched me do this, and if you haven't, you can see me stitching on YouTube on many, many videos. And I always stitch by holding the fabric. I was sewing this as a seam. I will always hold the fabric, thumb under, fingers on top. And that's going to be back at the edge of my table. Then my left hand is going to be on top of the fabric and it's going to guide it as we sew up to the foot. Stop, come back, we'll re-grab the fabric, put the hands back down, stitch up to the foot. And it's just like that. And it's a constant, easy motion. You also sit up straight because those of you who are pulling your fabric through the sewing machine, let me tell you 2 things. Number 1, it's not necessary. There's feed dog. They're going to pull it through. You can keep it straight with your left hand against the bed of the machine. The other reason is you're not going to end up with a sore shoulder, back, or neck from constantly being pulling over. Okay, that constant repetitive motion. You can sit up with this technique and just sew. You'll be able to sew longer because you'll be more comfortable. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about the line bodice, but let's see if there's any questions before I go any further.
I don't see any.
Okay. If you have any questions as we go ahead and type them in. All right, this is one that I think really, and this is what we got our question about today. So if you read the newsletter, Louise asked if there was a technique that we had somewhere in our books or videos on how to finish off the top of the neck. So like here's a little, this is like our little, let's say it's a sleeveless bodice and it's been faced. Same thing works if you're doing lining. So if it was a lined sheath dress, the same thing. So before we sewed this facing on, we did a preparatory work here so that, and I need you to get a close up of this, Brenda. So this is the outside. The other reason, this is another thing, if you're doing samples, it really helps to use contrasting colors because now I can really tell if the facing is totally hidden. which it is. But, so this would be the outside of the garment before the zipper was put in. Now, look on the inside here, how this has been prepared. Now, if you can just slide that zipper right in there, when it's stitched down, it's going to catch the facing and the seam. But look how clean and nice it's going to be. And you can take your zipper head down a little bit and then put a hook and eye, or you can keep your zipper up nice and tight and not need a hook and eye. Okay, so, but with this whole project, you're going to learn so many cool things. Here's a piece of facing. So this is like this piece right here, all right? So many times they're going to have you finish your facing. First of all, they're going to have a 5/8 inch seam allowance. Deliver me from trying to get a nice clean edge on an inside and outside curve using a 5/8 inch seam allowance, let alone have it lay flat and neat in this area and this area where it's going to lay. So, first of all, the seam allowance should only be 1/4 inch in this area. So 1/4 inch on a neckline, 1/4 inch on an inner facing, and 1/4 inch on the edge that you need to clean finish. So what we do is, and the video teaches you this, but we're going to turn under that 1/4 inch, but we're going to sew from the right side. And the feed dog magically will pull all of those curves in, but we have to stitch on the edge, not off the edge, not a needle width away, but almost directly on the edge. And it will pull all that in, and it will also cause, because we stitched on the edge, that turned over hem to lay completely flat, as you can see here. So here's what happens. The feed dog, let me turn it this way so you can really see. See, the feed dog eased in that outside curve. I didn't do it. The feed dog did it.
Can
Turn it this
the other
way. Well, I want it because you
Oh,
can't.
okay.
Okay. If you can catch, can you see that?
Mhm.
Yeah. So I can spin it. Well, you can see the whole thing. But see how flat it lies? And by stitching on the edge, it'll lay flat. By sewing it from the right side, the feed dog ease in any extra fabric or any curves. So same thing was applied here. Okay. And then, oh, the understitching tricks are fabulous. So you want to learn these understitching tricks because, as you can see, like I said before, you cannot see the facing popping out anywhere. And the neckline has got such a nice curve. It sculpts it if you do the understitching correctly. So many people understitch too deep. And when you understitch too deep, you've done the exact opposite of what you want to do. What you're trying to do is have it lay flat against your body and have that facing recessed just a titch so it doesn't show. By stitching too far down, it creates a folded area. So where that stitching is, it wants to curl forward. So important. And the understitching is on YouTube in tips and tricks or tips and techniques, one of our last videos in the playlist. Okay, but you can see this beautiful arm side. You cannot see the facing. Now here's the last and most important part of the line bodice part. It's a whole chapter. But look at this. This is the underarm with that facing. And you see that facing can't go anywhere. It's been sealed in to the side seam. And it will never be popping out. And that's what happens with a lot of home sewing projects. we have these horseshoe facings and we put them on, we do our best, and then you're walking along and all of a sudden, this happened in high school a lot, because a lot of girls sewed back then, and your facing's out, the girl would have to tuck it in under her arm or whatever. So that solves all of that and gives a much more finished and professional look. And when you've had this finished and professional look, it's easier to maintain because everything has been stitched down the way it's supposed to be. There's not a lot of extra pressing like there would be if it wasn't. Okay, so that's the line bodice. There's flat felt seams, there's darts, there's tucks. Here's the flat felt seam. There's just so much in this book. But again, my best advice, and I know quite a few people bought this book today because it is on sale. So if you don't get the newsletter, you should. But this book is on sale, 25% off, or the book with the class, or the class alone, or the ebook alone, or the ebook of the class. There's several combinations. But again, this is a two-step process, no pins or basting. And look at that beautiful flat felt seam. And everybody in class gets it the first time. It is just fun. Very fun to do that one. So that's what Islander Sewing Systems is all about. And that's why you need this book or the video. And people would come up to me. Well, at first, Margaret only put it on video. And people would come up to her and they would say, when are you going to come up with the book? She says, but I put it all on video. And they say, yeah, but I'd rather have a book. And this went on and on and on. So when I took over the company, I said, oh, I'm putting the book up because I know people have been asking for that book. And little did we know that some people wanted both. So when people would ask me, well, what should I get, the video or the book? It's the same information. The book has step-by-step color photographs. You cannot go wrong. But do you learn better by reading or do you learn better by watching? For me, I learn better by doing. So either way, I can learn, but I have to do it. And my tip is do it 3 times and it belongs to you, but you got to do it 3 times in a row. So when I teach shirt making classes, I always tell them, great, now you've got all these little things in your repertoire, but if you don't repeat them right away, you could lose them. So go home and make 2 more shirts right away before you make anything else. Then it will be sealed in your brain. But if you do it once, 6 months from now, you're going to go, what was that I did again? But if you do it 3 times, you go, oh, I remember. So that's my tip on any technique in sewing that you want to learn is you learn it. And once you feel you got it, now repeat it 2 or 3 times. All right, Brenda, do we have any questions?
There was just one question, and Joni wanted to know if she missed how to put the lap zipper in,
No.
but which zipper is on YouTube? Short, I think.
Oh, it is the slot zippers on the YouTube and the tips and techniques, but it's really not a how-to. It's just a fast speed demo. Okay, so it's just a video of me sewing. It doesn't show me doing the prep work or anything, and it doesn't explain it, but it is there so you can see it. In the book, it explains everything. Absolutely everything step by step, or the video, or like I said, the combination of the two, either one. But no, Joni, I did not do a demo on how to put that slot zipper in. I think it's much better if you do the whole bodice yourself and put the zipper in afterwards, but you get all the technique.
And easy zippers.
Oh, yes, it is, no.
Nope.
Okay, so Brenda mentioned easy zippers. Yes, easy zippers has all 5 zipper techniques in it, but it does not have this clean finished technique. That's only in the book or the video of the same name, Islander Sewing Systems 1 or Islander Sewing Systems Industrial Shortcuts. They're the same information.
Okay.
All right? Okay. What else were we gonna talk about today?
Q&A.
Huh?
Q&A.
Yeah, but okay. So if you have any questions about any sewing technique or project or pattern, um, let's get into it. I'm really counting on you guys for some good questions today. Brenda and I have been so busy on two fronts uh, that we're kind of counting on you to give us some more for today's material. Brenda and I both have been dealing with different family members who need us, elderly people with, not that we're not getting elderly ourselves, but even more elderly than us. So, not being able to put in a full day's work every day in the last few months, plus with my back surgery I had in January, I wasn't even able to work part time. It was like part time. And I'm just getting back in the swing of things. And we've got a big project that we're excited about. And we're trying to get it done. It's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but we're getting to it. So anyway, questions.
Patricia just says you're absolutely right about repeating newly learned skills.
Okay, so Patricia agrees that you will, and that's why whenever you go to a training center or a college or whatever it might be, they don't just show you one time. Now you got to do a project. You got to turn in a project at the end of the semester so that you repeat, do it, get yourself totally involved in it. Then it's yours. And the fun thing is, you make 3 shirts in a row. Not that this was supposed to be about shirts, but the cool thing is, think about it. The techniques that are in a shirt apply to so many other garments: coats, blouses, dresses, jackets, vests, pockets, collars, cuffs, sleeves, plackets. They're all in a shirt. So you're getting all of that great information and practice, and that will apply to so many other things. And pretty soon, after using these techniques for a while, I couldn't say a time frame because it depends on how many garments you make a year, but you'll all of a sudden think, hey, I'll bet if I do XYZ, it'll work here too. So you'll kind of see the method of sewing things sort of opposite to home sewing. And you, even though it wasn't an exact project that was in the book, you'll be able to see how it is similar and how to make that happen. So I think that's pretty exciting in itself. And eventually you don't need the book anymore. You'll be able to pass it on to your grandkids because you'll have it. It'll be yours.
Thanks for popping. Can you recommend a fusible interfacing for knits, in particular necklines, sleeves, armholes, and hems? I like my knit sleeve top spaced. Mary Jo.
So the question, who is that from?
Mary Jo.
Mary Jo is asking about knit interfacing for a lot of areas of a knit because she says she likes her knits faced. She'd rather face her knits than put the band on, I think.
I think she's saying I like my sleeveless top spaced. I'm not sure.
Okay, she likes her sleeveless top face, so she wants to put a facing in instead of turning the raw edge under or putting a binding on it. Because if you've got a knit, generally knits are not faced. They're generally, there's that fold over elastic that you can put around the arm, or if it's the right kind of knit and you have a good hand, you could turn those edges under and stitch them down. But Mary Jo, right?
Yes.
Mary Jo would prefer to put a traditional I assume, facing in her arm size. And well, I can tell you that our light and stable is a knit. It stretches one way. It does not stretch two ways. So I use that for wovens as well as knits, but I very seldom put interfacing in a knit, only to stabilize an area. Mostly because, Mary Jo, I like ready to wear look. So I go for the ready to wear look. And if I don't have the exact thing I need, like say it's a fold over elastic, I'll go looking for it because I like my things to look like high end ready to wear. And that's always been my thing. So that's who I am. And that's how I do it. It sounds to me like you don't care if it's in ready to wear. You just want, you like the look and the feel of that arm side face. So I think the light and stable will do it for you. You don't ever want to put an interfacing in a place of a garment that's going to need to stretch. So keep that in mind as well, because if the interfacing doesn't stretch and the knit does, you're going to have a problem somewhere. But there are other knit interfacings on the market that I'm not familiar with, Mary Jo, so you might want to test others out if you need a two-way stretch. Okay.
Patricia would like to know, do you plan to do a book to go with the zipper video? I'm a reading learner and would love one.
Okay, so the question is, do I plan to do a book to go with the zipper video? No. Sorry. You know what? I don't think it's necessary. Now, we cover two of the zipper techniques in this book, and they're step-by-step pictures. Let's see if I can, oh, look at me. Right to it. So, and that's great because we have several pages and quite a few photos that take you step by step through the whole process of those two types of zippers. But no book, you know what? We actually started a book probably 15 or 20 years ago and said, no. You know, writing directions is really mind boggling. It may seem, if you know how to do something, it doesn't seem like it'd be that hard to write the directions for somebody else. Oh my goodness, was I wrong? So, writing directions is complicated, and we like to be very precise and very good at what we put out. And so we decided not to do that one. But I think you'll find everything in the video for the zippers that you need.
Okay, nothing else.
And that's, ooh, no more questions. More questions? Well, I think that's all I have too. No? All right. Well, we're going to put this video on YouTube for anyone to take a look at later. I would love to get some suggestions for next month's Tuesdays at 2, particularly because I'm going to be very busy with this project that I hope to be able to tell you about next month. But so in the meantime, if you've got an idea or a question for the newsletter, please send me an email, islandersewing@comcast.net. Islandersewing@comcast.net. If you didn't get it written down or you forget it, it's at the bottom of the homepage. So you'll be able to find us anytime. And keep in mind, you get 25% off on those items that are in the newsletter, but don't forget to use the code or you won't get the discount. Somebody forgot it this morning, but she's a regular customer and we knew she must have just forgot it. So we want to make sure. Sometimes we catch them, sometimes we don't. All right. Well,
Okay.
thank you all so much for being here today. And for those who asked questions, I appreciate it. And again, any questions, anything that we can help you with in the world of sewing and fitting and pattern drafting, Islander Sewing at Comcast.net. Have a great week and a wonderful month of May. We'll see you soon. Thanks so much from Janet Prey and Brenda Rogerson. Are you sending me a little message a little bit? Okay.